Self-discipline is the backbone of motivation, particularly when challenges arise and things don't go the way you want. It is the engine that drives us. And we're going to talk today about why self-discipline is so important. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. Welcome back to my 100-day walk to consistency. Here, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you are joining me on this journey that we are on to improve ourselves, to build a better version of ourselves, to build a more consistent, a more dependable version of ourselves by doing consistency every single day. Hey, we're on day number 29, and we're talking about a very important topic, and that is self-discipline. I've got to say, before we get into the conversation, you want to make sure that you understand that consistency is your superpower. It's a key to all the things that we are doing, and it is key to setting ourselves up for success. So we're going to talk here in just a minute, so I'll see you on the trail. So we're talking about self-discipline. What is self-discipline? Self-discipline is the ability to control your behaviors, your emotions, and your actions in light of difficulties or when things are not quite going the way we anticipate that they should go. It is the ability to regulate yourself. It's the ability to be in a situation and despite what's going on around us, to behave in a way or act in a way that is still controlled and that still sets us up for success. Often, and I say often, I tell you a lot of my stories. I remember when I was finishing fellowship and I was looking for a job, and I had talked to a bunch of folks, and there was one particular place that I was waiting for, and it was really the place that I wanted to go. And they had interviewed me, we had had a conversation, they had sent all the appropriate, I had sent all the appropriate documentation, and I had all these, not all these, but I had a couple of other offers. And so I was waiting for this one place to come back and to tell me what their plan was, whether they were going to consider hiring me or not. And so my family had to make a decision. You know, we were leaving where we were and moving on, but I already had an offer in hand, and I was waiting for this other place. And we waited and waited and waited and waited. And so finally I called up, and I think it had been a month by this time. And I called up and I spoke to the person that was in charge and said, hey, you know, I'm kind of waiting to find out what the plan is. And when I talked to them, they still had not come to a decision. They had not made a decision as yet. And so I became annoyed, and you could tell in my voice that I was annoyed. And so I eventually, you know, we made a decision, and I talked to that person, I don't know, maybe a year later. And I said to them, I said, hey, you know, when I first was talking to you guys, you know, I became annoyed, and we kind of went through the situation again. And she said, yeah, she said, you know, I see that quite a lot. And, you know, I know it can be frustrating. One of the things that we all have to work on is being able to be in a situation and regulate ourselves, right? So this was me fresh out of school, and I never forgot that. I've never forgot that conversation, because in my mind, I knew that at that moment, I was not as self-controlled as I could have been, did not have all the self-discipline. And just dropping something here. Here we go. And so, in that instance, it was relatively benign, and I say that. It did not affect what ended up happening with me, but it can. And often, not just in a job situation, but in our lives. You know, you are frustrated, you're angry, you are disappointed, you're depressed, and because of that situation, we allow ourselves to be pushed off of our eating plan, pushed off of our exercise plan, pushed off of our whatever it is, whatever the plan is that we've come up with that is helping us with our health, setting ourselves up for success. We allow that situation to derail us. And so developing self-discipline is very important, not just in, for instance, in my example, but in lots of different places, and particularly as we talk about our health. So one of the things I want you to understand is that while motivation will get us to the start, self-discipline is what takes us over the finish line. You said it again, motivation, you have the drive, you have the wherewithal, you have the stamina to get to there, right? To get to the start. You have gone through and you've done the SMART goals and you've set them up, and you are dealing with emotional intelligence and you're mindful, but it is self-discipline that takes us across that finish line. And so our consistency that we're working on, that is what is the crux of what we're doing. We are learning to be disciplined, self-disciplined, and that will set us up for success as we move through the various aspects of what we're doing. And I'm going to say to you, as we go through these 100 days, you're going to have ebbs and flows in your emotions. Your motivation will change. Your priorities will change, right? They'll adjust. There'll be some things that will come up and they will vie for your attention. And the question is going to be, how do you allow life to happen around you and still maintain success in terms of your consistency, right? So that's a big one. I want you to be thinking about that. So self-discipline, right? It is what keeps you consistent. It is what says to you, yeah, I know that it's cold, and you know, you guys are going to see it's going to start getting cold here after a while as we're walking through these days, wherever you are, right? Or it's going to be hot, depending on when you're doing this. And the question for you is, what do I do in that instance, right? So your job may change, your family dynamics may change. And what do I do in the middle of all that? How do I maintain consistency? And your self-discipline will be a big part of that, right? So achieving long-term goals requires sustained consistency. It requires self-discipline if you're going to be consistent. Yeah. Right? So those two things, self-discipline and consistency. And, you know, I'm walking around my neighborhood, and of course, not everybody, but people are cutting the lawn. And so you hear that lawnmower going right there. So how does self-discipline drive consistency? Self-discipline drives consistency because it helps you overcome emotional reactivity or emotional reactions. So whenever something is happening, and you know, this was something that was kind of mentioned, maybe tried to be taught to me early on, that I didn't pick up. There's a difference between responding and reacting. And so responding is a thoughtful evaluation of the situation, whatever's going on. And it is the controlled behavior, thought, words that you use in that instance. That is what a response is. But a reaction is a almost knee-jerk thing, right? It's kind of like a reflex. When we hit the knee, the patella tendon, then we get a response, you know, the foot jerks. Or we hit the elbow, or we hit the ankle, right? The Achilles tendon, then we get a response. That is automatic. There's no thought. Your brain doesn't say, hey, I feel something down there, let me now respond. I hit it, it goes to the spinal cord, there's a synaptic transmission of that signal, and automatically I get a response back, or I get a reaction. I said response, but you get the idea, right? And so what we want to do is we want to be in the space where we are not, let's go down this way. We want to be in the space where we're not reacting, but we are responding. And self-discipline allows us to control our emotions to the point where we are able to give a response and not just a reaction. That's one of the powers of self-discipline. So discipline allows you to separate your emotions from the behavior, separate your emotions from the action, separate your emotions from the thing that's happening. One of the shows I did on my platform was about the ability to separate ourselves from the thing that's happening. So understanding that when something happens, that behavior is not me. It is something outside of me, and it does not have power until I give it a thought or give it life. And we've talked about that here as well. Okay, so when things are happening, if we are self-controlled, then we're able to differentiate between the emotion or me and the thing that just happened. Because it happened doesn't mean anything to me until I give it life. Until I say, this is what that means. This is what those words mean. This is what that behavior means. This is what that thing that that person says means to me. That happens only as I give it life. And so self-control allows us to be able to separate our emotions and overcome those emotions. Discipline allows you to separate your emotions. Instead of letting emotions dictate, we want our brain, we want our thought process to be in place. We want that to be the thing that's giving us the response, okay? And then self-discipline helps us to navigate challenges. If we are present, then we understand how our body is functioning. We understand what that is doing to us, and that we can give a response rather than reaction. So when we get stressed, when we allow emotions to dictate, then there is confusion in the thought process. Remember, emotions will short circuit the thoughts. When we get stressed, as a matter of fact, and I think I've mentioned it here before, when we become stressed, that cortisol that comes out, the cortisol will cause our memory to go away. So we it's almost like we lose that short-term memory. And so in that process, we sometimes can begin forgetting how to process, how to evaluate, how to think about things clearly. And so if we're able to control those emotions, then we short circuit the process of derailing us, right? So basically we're inhibiting the ability of those emotions to set us on a path that does not end well. How many times have you had occasion where you're like, man, if I had just kept my mouth shut, if I had just not said that, if I had just not done that, and it was done, that thing that you did, it was done because of an emotional reaction, right? Your emotions got the best of you, and instead of thinking about it clearly, then you responded. So emotions, when we are able to manage our emotions, when we're able to deal with our emotions, then we do better. And so self-control allows us to be able to do that. So how do we strengthen self-discipline? What does that look like? What are the steps? What are the behaviors that we need to do? Number one, we want to build a daily routine. Yeah. You know that was coming. So when we have structure, when we have a routine, when we have a protocol, when we have an algorithm, then that allows us better opportunity to be self-disciplined, because much of that we don't have to process. We don't have to think about it. We've had those synapses that are connected. The neuroplasticity has worked. The myelin sheets have gotten stronger. And so our ability to do things is faster, right? So we have a routine. So beautiful, beautiful place to come back to that idea that we dealt with several episodes ago, where we're talking about routine. So do you have a routine in your arsenal? Routines remove decision fatigue. They help us to automate the possibility of being success. So listen to that, right? Routines help us to automate the possibility of being successful. Oh man, I gotta write that one down, right? I'm using that one. I gotta come back to that. But when we're working on success, people often think that it is a everyday making great and grand decisions. But it really is every day making simple, boring sometimes, mundane decisions. But because it's built into the routine, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to recreate it. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. The routine helps me to do that. Also, when we are, in order to build self-discipline or strengthen it, we want to set clear, specific goals. Clear, specific goals. If the goals are not clear, if they're not specific, then we are shooting all over the place, right? It's just a crapshoot. Is today we do this, tomorrow we do that, we make this decision here, we make that decision there. And that sets us up for challenges because our mind does not like that. It wants to be consistent. It doesn't want to have to make all those decisions. Okay? So as we're working on being successful, then being self-disciplined will help us in that direction because we have clear goals. We know where we're going. We know what the timeline is. We know this is doable. We know it's achievable. We know it's relevant to what we're doing. And so setting clear goals helps us to strengthen our self-discipline. And then we want to master the art of delayed gratification. Oh. Yeah, this one is hard for a lot of us, right? I'm gonna put myself in that. You know, one of the things I don't like to do? One of the things I don't like to do is I don't like to shop online. Yeah, I know. I'm in that. I do it and I get benefit from it and I'm good at it, right? But I don't like it. You know why? Because the art of delayed gratification comes into play. I want to be able to go, see it, touch it, pick it up, bring it home. Right? Basically, I'm hunting. And so I'm going, I'm getting it, and that's it. I want to take it home that day. And so delayed gratification says that I am doing something that's going to bring me benefit. And I may not see the benefit right now, but ultimately I'm going to get benefit. And I'm willing to wait. I'm willing to delay the outcome, the benefit, until I see something else. Well, or not necessarily something else, until it comes, right? So I'm not going to short circuit it. I'm not going to question myself. I'm not going to...
Time, 25 minutes, 25 seconds. Total distance, 1.0 miles. Average pace, 25 minutes, 24 seconds per mile. Split pace, 25 minutes, 24 seconds per mile.
You heard my readout there. So I'm not going to short circuit my health plan. I'm not going to short circuit my walking. I'm not going to short circuit my fasting. I'm not going to short circuit any of that because I can't delay my gratification. Now, I'll tell you, here's an example. So I do a fast once a week, And if you've seen any of my videos of my channel, you know that. And there are times when I'm right at the end of that fast. And that was what happened last night. So I was right near the end of the fast, and I needed to make something for my son. So he wanted me to cook a particular dish. And so I'm in there and I'm cooking it, and it smells so good, y'all. Now, I think I've gotten good enough at cooking this dish, making this dish, that I can make it without tasting it. Yeah. But I'm standing there and it's smelling so good. And I've just got another 12 hours to go to complete the fast. And it's late at night. And so at that moment, I had to make a decision. The decision I had to make was, do I maintain my consistency, or consistency in terms of what I'm going after, where I want to be, or do I eat? And I have to say, I ate. I tasted it. I didn't eat, right? I tasted it. And so that was a simple example, but we make those decisions, we make those choices all the time. And in that instance, it was a relatively benign thing, but it can be even more pronounced, right? One of the things that I also struggle with is I have a love for cashews and almonds and all things nuts, right? So walnuts and so forth. I've developed the walnut, by the way. And so I don't bring those in the house. I don't bring them into the study. We have, sometimes we'll go out and we'll bring a small pack. But we bring a small pack because I know if we bring the bigger one, guess what? I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat it. And so my self-discipline, right, is what in that instance helps me make that decision. Okay, and so that is something that we've got to develop. So we strengthen it by setting clear, specific goals. And then we want to master the art of delayed gratification, and we want to hold ourselves accountable. So it's so easy, right, to give ourselves a pass. It's like, oh, yeah, right now we're not going to do that. Right now we're taking a break. Right now, whatever it is. But remember, as you are dealing with all of those, as you're telling yourself stories, then your brain is finding support for all of that. So every time you give yourself a pass, the brain says, okay, well, I guess this is who we are. This is how we do it. We don't complete. We don't stick to it. We don't have the ability to maintain discipline. And now that becomes the story that our brain is trying to find, and the support that it's trying to find. And so your job is to hold yourself accountable. You have an accountability partner. We've talked about that. We have an accountability group, but you also want to hold yourself accountable. And you want to prove to the inner critic that no, the inner coach is right. We are and we can be successful, okay? Hold yourself accountable. And then you strengthen self-discipline by relying on those people around you to speak to you. You give them permission to come into your space and to advise and to give recommendations and to give what they see. Recently, one of my aunts sent me a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, right? And all that. You guys know that whole process. And so she was asking me for honest opinion. And so what we want to do is, for those people around us, our trusted advisors, our accountability group, we want to give them permission to do a SWOT analysis and to come alongside us and say, hey, I think you should do this, or I think you should do that. And this helps us strengthen our self-discipline. It helps us strengthen our ability to remain consistent, because we have that person now that is speaking into us, that is speaking, that is giving us, that is being honest. And when I sent my analysis back to my aunt, she sent me an email, and it says, thank you for your honesty. Thank you for your honesty, okay? So on the other side, if you have someone that has asked you to be their accountability partner, please be their accountability partner. Don't be a rubber stamp. That's not what they need, right? They do that themselves. So if they've asked you to be in their space, to be a part of their accountability group, that's what you got to do. Now, sometimes it's going to be hard, I'm telling you, because nobody wants to hurt another person's feelings. But sometimes you got to say the hard thing that, yeah, I think we could do that better. I think we can do that a little differently. I think, whatever it is, however you use those words, but you want to be the accountability partner and you want to be able to give them true and real feedback so that they can improve. Because as we improve, as you improve, as they improve, the community improves. And so we are sharpening each other. Remember I said, if you want to go someplace, go by yourself. If you want to go a long way and you want to be successful, take somebody with you. All right, so that's our conversation about self-discipline. And we can't leave without giving you we got an airplane going overhead. We can't leave without giving you a challenge. So are you ready? So our challenge today is, how do we work on strengthening our self-discipline? Okay, remember you got to pull out your journal. And so here it is. Number one, identify an area where self-discipline is lacking. What is your area? Is it in your relationship? Is it in sleep? Is it in food, exercise? Is it in being organized? Is it being structured? Is it in overcommitting? Whatever area, right? Identify one area. Think about an area that you're struggling with consistency. Set a clear action plan. So what is it going to be? Remember, we're working on the SMART plan, working on that goal, S-M-A-R-T. Is it specific? Is it measurable? Is it achievable? Is it relevant? Is it time-bound, right? So set a SMART goal. Create a specific action plan for how you are going to strengthen your self-discipline. What are you going to use? Right? This could be, setting a new routine, tracking your progress, or practicing delayed gratification. Some of the things that we just talked about. And then take immediate action. Remember, you're journaling this, but you're taking immediate action. Don't wait. Do something today. As you come up with that plan, whatever is on that plan, I want you to initiate it. Because remember, a plan on paper means nothing. It's not until you activate it that it has value, and it has, well, I shouldn't say have value, that it's pushing you in the direction of being successful. And then reflect on your progress and journal about that in your journal. Make sure that you are doing that. This is all amazing stuff that we are learning. These are amazing concepts. They will set us up for success if we continue to do that. Okay? If we're consistent, if we work on our self-discipline. Yeah. So self-discipline is one of those most important ingredients in achieving your goal. It is what allows you to take consistent action, even when the going gets rough. So you want to make sure that you're working on being self-disciplined and consistent. Hey, I want you to make sure that you're doing the challenges. Before I go, I want to make sure I say that again. The challenges, these are the ways that we are working to implement, to practice the concepts that we're learning. Remember, we educate, empower, and encourage. Education comes with the knowledge, and empowerment comes with the tools. And the tools are stronger as you implement them. So make sure that you are not just watching the videos and letting these things go by. Also, make sure you're going through the worksheets. When you're done, you're going to have a manual that you are creating that's going to set you up for success, not just in this space, but you're going to apply that across the board. Hey, glad that you're here. This is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Woode with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on this channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life. Avoid complications and go to the next level. And I will see you on our walk tomorrow on day number 30.